Hey everyone, I'm Nicole,
And I'm Gabrielle.
and we are the hosts of the Spiritual Sisters podcast.
Join us every week as we discuss all the spiritual topics like astrology, mediumship, psychic insights, and so much more.
We are often joined by others we have met along our spiritual journey who are well versed in many of these areas.
Get ready for enlightening discussions and interviews and personal experiences that we hope will expand your mind and get you thinking outside of the box.
Whether you're a seasoned spiritual seeker or just beginning your spiritual journey, there's something here for everyone.
Check us out every Tuesday wherever you get your podcasts. See you then.
Bye!
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Soul Ecosystem Podcast. I'm your host, Anna Rising, and on this podcast, we discuss all things soul contracts. I'm a professional soul contract reader, and I work with a modality that combines Jewish mysticism, astrology, tarot, and numerology to calculate what you incarnated here to do. As promised from last week's episode, today we are going to be looking into Michael Jackson's soul contract. This is something that I had looked into maybe a year ago, and I really loved it, but we're going to be taking a sneak peek into it now in honor of the recent movie that came out about his life starring his nephew, Jafar Jackson. Now, before we start on his soul contract and the numbers that are found there, I did want to announce that the Soul Space course, where you are introduced to soul contracts, introduced how to calculate soul contracts, and guided through the process of how to analyze them, is still open. If you are interested in learning how to do soul contracts on your own, Soul Space is still open. I'm going to be linking it down below for you to be able to sign up and join and catch up on all of the modules that you may have missed. I'm also currently working on a soul contract calculator that I'm going to be putting on my site, where you can automatically just input your birthday and it will calculate your soul contract for you, have that analysis just right there automatically generated, and that is going to be available hopefully by this summer. So without further ado, let's take a look at Michael Jackson's primary numbers, because they say a lot about who he is on a soul level, who he is at his core. Michael Jackson was born August 29th, 1958. For those of you that have been following along for a while, we know that we take any number that's over 22 and add them up to get the primary number. So in Michael Jackson's case, his primary numbers would be the 8, because he was born in August. 29, 2 plus 9 equals 11. So 8 and 11 as primary numbers. Both of these numbers are very spiritual. 11s are more rooted in the 3D, but overall, these are also very spiritually evolved souls. 11s just have this ability to channel this drive and determination within themselves on a much larger scale than most souls, because 11 is the number of strength. And seeing as that is his primary number, his soul essence, that gives us a lot of information about who Michael Jackson is as a person. This is somebody that would still perform on broken bones if he has like 104-degree fever. This is somebody that is going to push their body past its limits because they have that fire, they have that fuel, an innate chi and energy within them that they can channel that aren't available to most souls. Along with this perseverance and this grit, there's also kindness, understanding, compassion, ability to empathize with others that also is very incredibly rare. This is somebody that wears their heart on their sleeve and somebody with a really good sense of humor. It reminds me of this one interview of Michael Jackson that I keep seeing on my Instagram feed, where he's talking about how hard it is to tour, how much of a toll it has on his body. And the producers or the people that were interviewing him were like, you can't say that. You have to say something positive. So he immediately says, I love to tour. And everybody starts cracking up because he was just talking about how much he hates it. So That kind of sense of humor, that kind of level of understanding and compassion is so, so rare. I absolutely love the energy of the number 11, and I'm very, very biased because my husband is an 11, but I feel like understanding how my husband shows up as an 11, how that influences who he is as a person, gives me a very good insight into Michael Jackson and the level of empathy that he had for others is just incomparable. Accompanied with that 11 energy, he has the energy of 8. 8 is the number of justice. This is kind of like Libra energy. These are people that are very, very passionate about justice. They might speak out a lot about social injustice. And this gives us a good idea into what Michael Jackson incarnated here to do. So we know that as a soul, if you are choosing the number 11 to be your primary number coming into this incarnation, you know that it is going to be brutal on your body. You're going to need that extra energy. You're going to need that supply and that grit and determination to power through whatever it is that you go through. And that's exactly what we see for Michael Jackson. We know his history of being abused by his dad as a child. We know that that kind of pressure, that kind of like parents pushing you to succeed to the point of like not just pushing you, but like abusing you, forcing you, not being allowed to celebrate birthdays, not being allowed to celebrate Christmas, and to have to grow up on stage, to have to perform with all their siblings and have that kind of lifestyle from a very early age where you're just performing for people. That must have taken an incredible toll on his body, on his mental health. And I dare say that if he didn't have the backup energy of that number 11, I don't know if he would have survived it, because look back at all of the child stars that have been pushed past their breaking point, past their limits. I'm thinking about Justin Bieber, right? He would be convinced by his like producers or managers or something to get on stage and perform when he has 100 and something degree fever. So when you take a look at how a lot of times in the entertainment industry, you're just not treated as a human being, you're treated as a money making tool, not as a human. I love that Michael Jackson has this kind of energy to him because he is able to cope with it much better than a soul without that supply would. With that 8 energy of justice being in his chart, we know that he was destined. He really wanted to take a stand in his life. He really wanted to speak out about injustices, about the justice system, about the systems that are in place that aren't working properly, aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, aren't protecting the weak, the vulnerable. And we see that throughout his life, Michael Jackson did that. Michael Jackson spoke up about these kind of things, about injustices, about the things that he saw that were happening in our country through music. He utilized his art, he utilized his creativity to find a way to speak about what was happening. And I feel like he incarnated into the family he incarnated, knowing exactly what was waiting for him, knowing the pain that was waiting for him because he would have the platform that he had in order to speak up. Now, when it comes to past life karmic debts, we see a past life karmic debt of passion. We see that in his past life, he was extremely passionate. He also got bored very easily. And oftentimes, this manifested as affairs. This manifested as stepping out of committed relationships because it got boring, it got too repetitive, and you wanted something new, you wanted something exciting, you wanted something that would pique your interest. The lesson with that coming into this incarnation is that if you are going to be stepping into a committed relationship where there is love, to not be so quick to act on impulses, to seek the next thrill, the next adrenaline rush. Now, I think this is very important to mention. I wasn't going to mention his approach to life, but I wanted to talk about this because we can see how this is how this manifested in his incarnation as well. Because the strategy that he has for this incarnation the thing that he needs to learn to stop doing is escaping from reality. So he has this tendency of trying to live in illusions, trying to not live in the real world, trying to kind of escape from it as much as possible. And this manifests as difficulties in communication, difficulties in relationship, a fear of being honest with yourself, exaggerating a lot of things, believing that the world is a very harsh place, having phobias, having addictions, and an inability to accept your present reality. So there's a lot of escapism going on. And I feel like we see that when Michael Jackson really tried to get back in touch with his inner child. I wouldn't say that he was using it as an escape, because I do think that Michael Jackson's soul was just wildly spiritual, wildly evolved. But we see a little bit of this where he may have been trying to run away from the bad memories, the bad parts of his childhood, and kind of get a second chance to have a normal childhood as an adult, where he did the Neverland thing and invited the kids. And that part, the part where he loves kids, I think that's also an 11 thing. The part where he was saying that he loves kids, he bonded with Princess Diana over the fact that they both love kids. They both had these beautiful, insanely big hearts and an insane capacity to love other people. A bunch of other things also manifesting along with that strategy of escapism. This could manifest as a relationship that he knows isn't good for him, that he knows is like over, but he's afraid to break it off because he doesn't want to be alone. That kind of stuff. Sorry, my cat Lulu would like to say a few words about Michael Jackson. So let's get into his programs, his subconscious programs, the limiting beliefs, the cycles that he's come here to break in his incarnation. Let's start with the academic knowledge program. This means the person's a genius. This means that this person is absolutely brilliant. And I think as far as songwriters go, Michael Jackson was as brilliant as it gets. I keep remembering this one Michael Jackson quote where he would call producers into the studio at 3 o'clock in the morning, and everybody's like, why do you have to like do this right now? Why can't this wait till morning? And he would say, oh, like if I wait till morning, God's going to give this idea to Prince and then he's going to have a #1 hit. So I feel like there was this understanding that he was channeling ideas, he was channeling music, he was channeling songs and melodies from source, and he was able to be the one, he was able to be that channel that brought this into reality. Part of what makes Michael Jackson's Soul Contract so special and so beautiful is that he has a special mission program. Special missions are not easy. I've seen them pop up in very like traumatic kind of soul contracts where like there was either incredible loss involved or trauma involved. So everything that happened to Michael Jackson in this incarnation, he had signed up for. Like he knew that that was going to happen. And we know that by taking a look at the special mission program, because special missions mean that you are willing to take that pain, take whatever it was that had happened to you and transmute it into something that's going to serve consciousness, serve the collective. That's why it's called a special mission. This is not something that any soul can take on. I feel like it requires a lot of strength in order to be like, yeah, I know that I'm going to go through a lot of shit, but we're going to come out the other end of it. We're going to transmute it and we're going to find a way to heal as a collective following that. In addition to that special mission program, he has 2 subconscious programs that are very similar. They talk about a soul feeling trapped. This talks about a person feeling like they're very stuck in a certain situation and a certain commitment. And it's giving me the feeling that it could be like a contract that he has with a label Maybe a part of that feeling of stuckness is coming from a place where he felt stuck in his family. He felt like he couldn't get out of his duties to perform with the Jackson 5. In any case, it almost gives off the theme of like being a bird in a golden cage, right? You have all of this money, you have everything that you could possibly want available to you, but you don't necessarily have the freedom to really choose that, which is where the displacement program kicks in. The displacement program along with the trap program. The trap is more of a mental cage than an actual physical one because the trap program often manifests as some kind of predicament where you feel like you're trapped, but it's really because you cannot see a way out. It's like a false trap. You're like imprisoned in your own mind. It's giving like that sword energy where you're so busy fixating on the anxious thoughts on kind of like spiraling that you can't see the very obvious way out of the situation, which is showing up in Michael Jackson's Soul Contract. Now, as far as soul contracts go, that special mission program speaks volumes. I feel like that is the most highlighted program in his soul contract because of how it manifests in other soul contracts. These are often souls that had a huge impact on this timeline on the world. I wanted to take a look at what was going on for Michael Jackson's yearly numerology for the year that he died. He died when he was 50 years old. And I wanted to see if there was any indication by the numbers that showed up for him on his 50th year. And it looks like he has the numbers 11, 19, and 3. So when you are taking a look at your numerology for the year, there is like one number that's like the common theme, and then there's like sub themes, usually two, sometimes one other number that's running kind of in the background. So his main number for that year, for his 50th year, is the number 11. The number of 11 is usually a period of growth and success, but a time of really huge energy consumption. This is when you're really, really exerting yourself, exerting your energy, and doing a lot of things. When it's in alignment, this kind of year is like an endurance test. This is a year of a lot of hard work. And if you're operating in alignment, if you're operating from the positive, this manifests as promotions. This manifests as your hard work paying off. When you're in misalignment, let's say like 11s usually do, they push themselves past their limits. They're not really paying attention to their health. Things start to negatively manifest, like having bad health, diseases to the point of needing surgical intervention, depression, being really down on yourself. Then we see the 19 coming in. The 19 is a very emotionally uplifting energy. When you're having a 19, you tend to want to really take time to enjoy the simple things in life, treat your inner child, and get what you lacked in childhood. Positive manifestations of 19 is that everything is going wonderfully at work, in their family life, their work-life balance is going good. There's a possibility of creative self-expression, having new insights, having new ideas. When it's manifesting negatively, there's excessive pride, expression of ego, bad mood, a desire to show off, brag, along with some greed and pettiness. Then lastly, the last sub-theme that's going on for him that year was the number 3. The number 3 is when you kind of reap all the rewards from all of the seeds that you have sown. It usually manifests as a promotion in your career. In a 3-year, you're more likely to have a daughter born if you or your partner is pregnant. If you have a son on a 3-year, he's more likely to have like soft qualities, like feminine kind of qualities. When expressed positively, the three brings success in business, new ambitions, new projects, a lot of profit and success. Negatively, there could be manifestations of issues with family, problems with kids, cheating, jealousy, and experiencing issues with finances. So I found that very interesting. I found that there was no indications of any accidents happening in his year numerology. I found that for Kobe, in Kobe's numerology, there was this warning against him being in accidents, car accidents, or in his case, helicopter accident. So make of that what you will. I thoroughly enjoyed Michael Jackson's Soul Contract. I feel like even though he had a very difficult upbringing, a difficult childhood, karmically he's packing really light. Everything about this soul contract exudes love for others, passion, excitement, really being enamored with life and the joys that life brings. It's also marred by a lot of heavy trauma, a lot of feelings of being stuck, of feelings of being trapped. And if we took a look at his talents and his spiritual gifts and the numerology we see there are so many blessings there for him. He's working with the energy of potential, he's working with the energy of prosperity. This means that both prosperity and potential are just really highlighted, really accentuated in this incarnation for him. He was meant to experience that. And it's funny because he inherited the prosperity, talent, and spiritual gift from both his mom and his dad. So both lineages, both his paternal and maternal lineage, were carrying that prosperity, and it kind of like carried over as a blessing to him. So I thought that was also interesting about his soul contract. Thank you guys so much for listening. Let me know what you guys think in regards to some of the stuff that's going on here, like with the special mission. I know I didn't touch too deeply on the special mission because I feel like it manifests differently, like very, very differently for every person. But thus far, I've seen it happen in the way where it's trauma, and you take that trauma and you transmute it into something very, very powerful. I've seen that in a number of clients where they're taking something that was incredibly painful and making that their mission, making that their purpose in order to help others kind of try to transmute that pain into purpose in their incarnations as well. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think. Let me know if any red flags are coming off for you or anything of note is coming off when it comes to like those trap programs that we talked about where he felt stuck, as well as the past life karmic debt of passion, because I feel like I don't know too much about his love life. I know that he was a little bit of a late bloomer when it comes to like being in a relationship. So I'd be curious to see how that manifests there. And I think that once I see the Michael movie with Jafar Jackson, I feel like that's going to be clicking stuff for me. And I'm going to be posting about it on my Instagram. So thank you guys so much for joining me for this. If you wanted to sign up for Soul Space Introduction to Soul Contracts or to get your own soul contract generated by yours truly, you can go to my website, www.thesoulecosystem.com. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow me to be kept up to date on the soul contract calculator that is going to be up on my site. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a wonderful May and a wonderful weekend. I will see you next Friday.